Okay. So this is the 12 elements. If you want to make a screen captures or take pictures of them as we go along, go ahead. But this is the 12 elements that we as jurors look to help people understand what we're looking for in our photography. And Sherry and I use these daily in our landscape photography as well. I also do a lot of portraits and things like that, but where I'm at is my life is take a lot of landscapes. So now I'm going to talk, there's going to be some wording here. There's going to be a little bit of wording. I promise you there will be photographs. So, landscape photography is the art of capturing photographs of nature and the outdoors that bring the viewer into the scene. That's important, to bring them into the scene. From the grand landscapes to intimate details, our best photographs will demonstrate our connection to nature, and then we'll be able to capture the world around us. So from our vision of photographing the grand landscapes, the intimate details, the images we show demonstrate the photographer's own connection to nature and how we capture the essence of the world around us. I know I have a degree in botany and geology. My wife came up in the artistic world, and we look at things differently. I'm very technical about things as she is, but we look at things, even though we are in the same place, we capture things so differently. Did I have a question there? Okay. So, comparison is a thief of joy. So many times, photographers, when we're out and about and doing workshops and with other friends, they're always worrying about what other photographers are doing, what they're thinking. Well, what's your f-stop? What's your shutter speed? And so they're always worrying about. We're always worrying about what other people are doing, and we just need to just ex-nay that and move on. So landscape photography is the art of capturing a spirit that embodies the spirit of outdoors. And we're all here. We love the outdoors, and that's why we're all here. And it will bring the sense of being there to someone incredible. I mean, I can't tell how many times I've shown my images, and I've had people, oh, I wish I were there. Oh, I love that. I've been there. You capture it differently. But, it just brings the people that they know. If you have people say that, So when viewers look at your photographic art, their heart should jump. That's the biggest thing. And judge, if I'm judging, I want my heart to jump up if I see an image. And you want to feel the same velocity. There, hear birds singing, the water's rushing, the wind's in our face. It's hard to get the total feel of it, but we want them in to capture what we're feeling and what we're doing, like they're standing right there with us, and we want to bring back some of these. Ernest, he's a photographer I've thought for my.
Hey, Dennis, we may have lost your audio for a second.
Yep.
Charles. Yeah.
If everybody else could just stay muted while Dennis gets back on. I think we lost your feed. Yeah. Yeah, you may have to log back in. All right.
Okay. I am sorry. Can everybody hear me? Can I get a thumbs up from guys that's viewing so I can tell me if you're hearing me? I am sorry, guys. I really am. Gotta
Yeah.
love technology.
Yeah,
Hey, so where did I lose you at? David, where did I lose?
you were on the slide talking about it should wow people.
Okay, you need to let me share again, please. I'm still disabled.
There you go.
Okay. You said I was where? When you lost me?
You're on a slide talking
we
about how it
Get
should
the
make people.
comparison to Theodore.
No, go back. Yeah, it was the one after Theodore Roosevelt.
Okay, we're gonna start there. How's that?
Great.
If you overheard it, you'll hear it again. Okay. So I apologize for everybody. Is there any questions before we go any further? I mean, are we good? Just keep going.
Yeah, I'd keep going.
Okay. All right. So we need to be on the hello. Okay, it says my connection is unstable and I have fiber optics, so I don't know why that's that way.
Yeah, we seem to lose the audio more than anything else.
Let me try something. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, that sounds great, actually.
Okay, I just took my headset off. It worked better today for one meeting, and if this works okay, we'll do it this way.
Sounds good.
Okay, so testing. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we'll just cruise on to the next one here. Okay, Ernest Haas, one of his sayings is, I'm not interested in shooting new things. I'm interested in seeing things new. And this really hits home because when I teach workshops, I have friends that go out and they won an award or did well or captured a good scene in one place. And so they keep going to the same place all the time, trying to, recapture the same thing because they feel like that's their lucky spot. And I think we all need to be able to go out and try new things and look at things new. Our destination is never a place, but rather a way of looking at things. And we need to be looking at things differently and trying new places and, still understand our equipment, but trying new places and go on there. So we're going to talk about the grand landscape, and hopefully this video will come across for you.
Good morning. We're in Colorado. It's a cool morning here, and we found this beautiful scene. We've got this incredible scene going across the whole valley. And when photographers show up in places like this, firstly, they are so inundated by so much distance, so many scenes, they have a hard time finding things. So we do a shot, we focus on the mountains, then we concentrate on the little trees, and then we concentrate on little snippets here, and then we have like a little S shape on the road that we try to find. We found this little beautiful S shape on the road there. So when you come into scenes like this, don't be scared of the overall scene. Envision it and grasp it, and then little snippet.
Okay, this is one of our workshops in Colorado, a place we go to.
And for me, landscape photography is a contemplative time, and we love to take the time to slow down, enjoy the beauty of nature of the world, and we like to experience, and it's almost a spiritual experience for us. I don't know about the rest of you. I was telling some people at the very beginning that Sherry and I was in Yellowstone over the weekend, and we was able to catch steamboat going off. We've missed it several times within a few minutes, but we actually got the whole thing, and it was almost a spiritual experience seeing something like that go off that has been, so quiet, and now it's starting to erupt. So the grand landscape, many people, it impresses them with flashy colors, and that's what they're looking for. The grand landscape, the flashy colors, and the dramatic views. That's pretty cool too. But like a lot of times we find snippets of things as we're cruising along, and we find snippets when we're out in the early mornings in the fog and the mist. And so I love black and white. That's why I taught in college was black and white labs, but I still like black and white. Now, this scene from that one I just showed you of that video, this is that little scene I showed with the little S shape in the road. So I try to utilize the compositional features and capture the S and all the colors and bring that in there. Now, this was that same scene, same area, but I went back the next day and had better clouds. The day before, you notice the video was really lousy. It's okay to go home with no picture or something. Take it and then document where you need to go. But I went back the next day and had better clouds and better lighting. And so I was able to capture it better. Many of you have been to Yellowstone. This is one from the whole basin. I love this whole scene. But this is a technique, I've had the large format pan cameras, but this is like a 6-shot pan stitch of the Geyser Basin. And the clouds happened to cooperate that day and got these great clouds. And, we got the river coming through here. And so we really enjoy finding and working with these kind of things and doing pan stitches. Another one, of course, you guys are Teton group, but I like the Idaho side too. Actually, I've had some clients have asked me for some Idaho shots. And so we've become on this side, and we've done a lot of photography up in the Fremont area and up in the Ashen area, across the valleys and grain fields and things, capturing something different, especially for the people on this side of the valley that want them in offices and different things. So this is one of my favorite shots of the Tetons from the Idaho side. So looking for things differently, because everybody likes, I love the oxbow, I love all those shots, but this is just something new and to show people. So as a landscape artist, you need to focus on what you're trying to photograph. Too many scenes people take are just pretty pictures, and it helps us to create that art piece. Several years ago, I actually did a workshop for PPA, and it was actually titled More Than a Postcard. And it really shocked people because a lot of times they're just taking pretty pictures, but they're not creating art pieces. And there's a place for both of them, but we want to be able to make sure we cover all the bases, especially true to ourselves and what we're trying to do. This is one I did in Italy a couple years ago. I was doing a workshop over there, and this was a 3-pan stitch. I'd already seen this, I visualized this scene, and it rained all night, and I got up and walked up the hill in the dark and the rain and the mud, and got to the 3-pan stitch. And actually there's a 60-inch hanging over my desk right now, because it just has this feeling of quiet and mood and everything going along with it. And I just love this little road going up to the tree, and this did very well in competition for me. But you got the little village in the background with the clouds and the mist coming in there. So these are kind of things that I'm always looking for, the things that do well in competition, as well as art pieces that will hang in homes and offices. Again, when I was teaching a workshop down in Yosemite, it's interesting for the professional photographers of California. And we went out to Tunnel View, which is a very popular place. And it was so interesting because we were photographing this, and I was helping people get their exposures, because there's a lot of highlights and fog, and it's just one shots. And it was really interesting. Photographer, not in our group, comes up and he goes, "Man, I wish this was clear." And I just died, because I thought, oh man, I kill for this kind of stuff. And this done well in competition for me as well. but I know you can see it's a long exposure because I got the blurring of the waterfall, the clouds are moving, got that blurry kind of the waterfall. And again, I love the black and white of this because when I shot this scene, I immediately knew I was going to do black and white of it. And sometimes if I'm not sure, now I know many of you have this on your cameras. Well, I shoot Canon, and I just quickly turned to monochrome on the back of my camera, shot a scene, and I knew exactly that's what I wanted to do. Now, one of the reasons why I shoot things like that and turn to monochrome if I'm thinking about turning into black and white, because at that moment, that was my vision. And then when I get home in a week or 2 weeks or even a couple of months from now, if I'm reviewing these images, if I go back through and I see a black and white pop up, because I shoot RAW and JPEGs, I know a little different than a lot of people, but my JPEGs will pop up black and white, and I go, oh yes, that's my visual reference for me to remind myself to maybe look at this in black and white. So this is the grand landscape, and I just love the feeling of this. Again, it's something that you guys up in your neck of the woods, up in the Tetons, the Oxbow, early morning, and the clouds, yes, that was the way it was, and just reflecting back. And this is just one of those things you catch the grand landscape. Anybody goes to Jackson has to have an Oxbow shot in their portfolio, but this is just one of those images I love, and it was created with this big shelf cloud and just treating with this great visual treat. So, you know, capturing the whole visual scene is just so important to me. And again, down in Moab, I think this last year, my wife and I were down there, and it had been storming and raining all day, and then the clouds broke up, and then the sun just really hit it hard, and it got some real nice side lighting with that dramatic clouds. These are all natural one-shot images. Nothing's been photoshopped to drop in or do anything. So these are all images that is one-shot scene. Back in when I used to do a lot of 4x5 different things, you know, that's all you got. And so this is what I like to do, is capture these images as we see them. And, you know, part of it is pre-visualizing, pre-planning where I need to go, and thinking about how I'm going to do and present this image. Okay, any questions so far in the chat or anything we need to monitor? Okay.
Yep, we're good.
Okay. From capturing grand landscapes to the intimate details, often, you know, our best photographs demonstrate our own ability and connection to nature, and we need to capture the essence of the world around them. And, you know, this is one down, you know, from the bridge down in Zion's Park. I know it's a very popular place. A lot of people like that, but I just love this leading line leading through up in here, the clouds teasing us here a little bit, light leading up on the distant mountains. And so it's just one of those shots that if everybody's done it, fine, but do it and then move on and do some different things. But this is just one of those shots I just really love. Now, I'm always on the alert for clouds and things. And this is a cloud cell that we were driving home from Salt Lake, and I actually stopped and jumped down the side of the freeway to get this because it kind of freaked me out because I saw it coming at me. So I'm always on the alert for the big shots. And this is just use my wide angle to capture it. This is right on top of me, but always be alert for the different clouds and things. And now with, you know, some of the techniques we have, we can capture clouds and we can drop them in with Photoshop. So if that's what you're into, you know, you can certainly create a library of such a thing that you can work with if it works with the scene. Again, we were, you know, the grand landscape, you know, planning out the attack. And this is a time up in Norris Basin when there was some fires up there. I got up there with a group, and, you know, the sun was coming through, the fire and the smoke is creating that density there. And this is one of those shots where it was just really a beautiful morning. Now, the thing is, the story I tell people is, as I was photographing this, I heard a big bull elk bugle off to my right, and then I heard another elk bugle off to my left, and back behind me, I heard wolves starting to howl. And I was so inundated with the whole senses, all my sensories were just activated, to my visual senses, my auditory catching the sounds. I mean, I almost forgot to take the photograph because you just caught up in the moment. I'm sure many of you had that experience before, but you just get caught up in hearing and feeling and going through the scene there. So this is just one of the grand landscapes I just enjoy capturing. And again, something for you guys, we like to incorporate man-made elements to our photographs sometimes to add scale. And, we show the scale, we got early morning, and the ability for us to sometimes when we live so close, we can go up a couple of times. Well, actually more than a couple of times, we do a lot of travel up there. We find locations. So we're not at the same place all the time. We're trying to expand and decide what's going to be the best lighting and where we're going to photograph for that day. So we really try to expand and where we're going to be and where we're going to shoot. Again, times a year, finding the locations. I've shot this in the fall time with the fall colors, beautiful. And I thought the early morning with the sun coming up and just barely peeking the Tetons and snow, it's just always trying to find something new and expand our creativity and what we're doing, creating the grand landscapes and going from there. If anybody shot this down at Mesa Arch, y'all know that you go down there, you hike up that hill, and you meet 300 of your new best friends at Mesa Arch. If you've ever been there, y'all know that this can get crazy. Believe it or not, I was actually photographed this, and I was the only one there at this particular day. But there's been other times I've been there when there's been dozens of people there. So it's just really kind of crazy when what it is. I know that you can see a lot of times people like the orange light on there, and I got those too. But I just wanted something to show the hoodoos in the background, and the pinnacles. And I just wanted something different. Spring, the snow still in the distance, it's all mountains. And so I always like to find things that the framing and kind of create the, is this a grand landscape or is this more of an intimate? It's how you look at it. So there's a lot of things how you interpret these. So, I just real quick, if this is a good refresher for you or something new for you, tips. But my main thing is, hey, shoot with intent. Go out there and know what you want to go for and shoot it. Now, things always change. Weather changes. The critters can run in front of you and change your mind. Lighting changes, but shoot with intent. So you're not just out there just, I see so many photographers and they shoot 900 shots and they go home with, 900 pictures of one scene. So I like to make sure my exposure and things right. But, and it's okay to go home without an image. I mean, there's been many times I haven't taken my camera out of the bag. And it's not that I was not inspired. It's just I've already photographed certain scenes and I didn't feel like I could add or create something else better than what I already had. And part of that is learning the process of pre-visualization. And that's a whole program itself. But learning how to understand what you're going to go home with, what you're going to capture, and then knowing how it's going to actually look on the wall and what you're doing. And, the process of pre-visualization is so important because then we can use other things like post-production. I'm not going to get into all this stuff, but there's just so many things you can do with Photoshop and Lightroom. I use Nik a lot. Skylum's available, Topaz. As a photographic judge, this is one of the things that I knock people down on is when they over process. Just because you can don't mean you should. So watch your processing techniques, watch how you work images and make them realistic. So that's my spill for that tonight. And stop rushing and enjoy the experience. Like I said, so many people will go and shoot all these shots. I'll try to get quality versus quantity. I'd rather have one good shot than 100 mediocre shots. And stop there, like we talked about previously, but stop comparing your work to other photographers. I'll be out, I know so-and-so does so much. I know so-and-so done this picture. Well, worry about how you're capturing, what you're doing, and what you're working on yourself. And that way, you can come to the scene and process in your own mind, visually, create the image and capture it. And you're going to find yourself a lot happier when you're out there and then get ready to enter your images for the next show. And not every, I did this for a PPA class, but not every image you capture will be a merit, which means it hung in the show for PPA, a lone image or for a gallery for show. But for me, a lot of times it's about the experience, learning and growing. And it's very important for me to grow each time I go out and shoot. Yes, I would like to capture a winning image every time I go out. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So, it's just a matter of learning to accept that that's not going to happen every time. Okay, any questions before we go to the next one? If you want to unmute so I can hear it, everybody needs to unmute so if you need to chat. Okay. So next thing we're going to talk about is the intimate landscape. And for me, the intimate landscape is where the content orientation is not immediately obvious and frequently a little surreal, a mystical feeling may come through on the intimate photographs. And it's not about the big vistas, it's not about macros. It's kind of like one of those in-between things. And it's a somewhere image in between where we're just not sure what it is. And like this is an intimate scene to me. It's not a big mountain scene, but this is one down the Narrows in Zion. And so after you capture those grand landscapes, you'll go in and switch your thinking to the more intimate, the water and the trees and the rocks and the flow and the design. And work on things like this in the middle of the day, and you can work on these intimate little details. And these little snippets sometimes tell much more of a story than the grand landscapes. Driving along and you see the fog and you see the clouds come through, you just grab it. You stop and it's like photographers go, oh, that's good light, which in photographers talk mean that's different light, and that's something I want to capture. So that's just my terms of when I say that's good light. Finding the little things as we're walking along. Again, we're down Moab, and I see this juxtaposition of these rocks, the ripples, the rock with the little tiny guys on top of here, the bush there, and it just has this little juxtaposition, the rock, the trees that will die, and something else new will come along. It's just one of those images that you just look for, and they just sometimes just jump out in front of you. And again, image down in Moab, everybody else is shooting the vistas, and I walk back to get something from the car, and I look back and I saw this juniper tree up in the skyline, and I gotta grab that. So I got down lower so I wouldn't get anything else in the photograph, and just got this simple tree. It's just simplicity, the tones, the values of it. And then about a year or two ago, a good friend of mine, she's going through some medical challenges, more than most of us will ever want to experience. And she saw this image, and I titled this tree The Survivor. And so she called me and wanted to buy one because she goes, this represents my life. I'm that tree, it's getting bent, but I'm going to survive. And so, sometimes when you bring an image into the visual sense that people can see it, it breeds their story into your scene, which is very cool. And we need to look for little details. No, you could say this is macro, this is intimate, whatever you want to do, but it's just a micro slice of the environment, and it brings you the storyline. You run along, and I really enjoy this image where I got this big rock, I got the little flowers that's kind of breaking in there with this hard rock there, and the colors, the yellow against the reddish. It just really has this nice juxtaposition of colors and design. And then we find, like, was up in the Pacific Northwest, and we see the little details, just different colors and tones, interjection of the different ferns and things are going on there. And so I'm always looking at these kind of shots, thinking this is what would work good in a dentist's office, a doctor's office, or a home, peace and calming. And yes, I look at shots as may not be a merit image, but if I can sell it and hang it in an office or something, that's what I want to do. Hey, if I have anything to say today, slow down. I mean, photographic opportunities ahead. So just slow down and take your time. Too many of us have an agenda. Like I was out with some friends here recently, and they had down at 6:30 a.m. we got to be here, and by 7:15 we need to be here. By 9 o'clock we need to be here. And I'm going like, oh my goodness, people, we need to stop and work the scene and play and see things differently instead of they want to shoot so much because they're there at limit time, which I understand, but sometimes just slow down and get the images and the shots will come. So the intimate landscape will often seduce us with its sublimity, and usually with gentle colors and design, the patterns, the texture, the color reflections, and intimate compositions. We still work in composition, but they're more of an intimate composition. You know, I really enjoy this little shot with details and details, the ferns, and the background with the four little trees just coming out. They're breaking up the ferns and the colors and tones there. And then as I'm walking past scenes, a lot of people will miss things like this. I really enjoy this. Here's this burnout dead tree with a sign of life growing into it, with this little fern and this little vine crawling up this dead burnout tree in a forest that had been burnt out. And to me, that has a different sense of life, and people understand that it creates a new story for them as they're looking at these. And then this is like one of my shots that you see behind me. I love photographing water and the movement and the tonalities. And I really enjoy being able to capture and find the scenes with, you know, if I can find fall colors and a couple of rocks and some beautiful fall colors, I'm down for that. I really enjoy finding those kind of scenes. And, you know, my wife and I, we go out and we just go out and enjoy. If we don't find anything, great, but we have a good time. You know, details. And this is interesting. I was with some friends and we're walking on this trail, and I saw this leaf. Actually, the leaf was sitting up here a little bit more, but then I thought, I wonder what if I just kind of dropped it in this hole. And so I captured the shot, and I did 3 or 4 exposures. I kind of moved the leaf a little bit. And is that fair? I just helped nature with the composition is all I did. But what I enjoy about it is the burl wood, the burls, and the leaf there is fading in of its glory. And so as I left, I just kind of pulled the leaf out of the hole. Well, it's interesting. One of my friends walked past about the time I was seeing it. He just jokingly said, well, I don't see it. And then we walked back to the parking lot, and some lady jumped out of her car and ran right back to the scene where I was photographing. She looked at it, she looked around, she put her hands in the air and goes to her husband, like, I don't know what he's doing. But it's just a matter of, I love tricking people and finding things like this. This actually did well in PPA competition because of the simplicity of it. Again, just finding the different scenes and details, and sometimes all the chaos creates the composition. You know, we got all the white aspens, which, you know, the vertical lines create strength. We got the colors, a different color in here, which add a different feeling in the whole picture, so one can read into it. So we just want to be able to find things and we can allow to have that confusion create the composition. And that's an intimate detail that a lot of people just walk past. You know, just get your television sometime, television. So it's intimate landscapes is another way for us as photographer or artists to be able to communicate the beauty and of nature along with its intrinsic values and the power of nature, showing different things there. This walk along and just saw the ripples in the water and the reflection of the sun going down, seeing beautiful little things of nature there. Just capturing some vines coming out of the water, and it's actually kind of raining and the water's rippling and the leaves were kind of moving. But I just love how the leaves, the colors, everything just kind of blends and works together and brings us into this nice, peaceful. It gives us this nice, calm, peaceful feeling when you look at it because of the tones and the colors that's interjected there. But then you look at where, again, I was walking along and I come past a gate and I saw this vine interjecting into this man-made element. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. You know, I got this nice composition of this V shape. Everything leaves some negative space here, and there's one little vine coming up, creating this little space where it's going there. I love finding little places like that where it just makes you think what's going to happen and how nature exists.
When I sign in with my account.
Okay. Another one, as we're walking along trails, we see the different colors, the lines, the leaves, the lichens on the trees, and just little things that, is it going to hang in a show or is it going to merit? You never know. There's been some funny things happening. People like those kind of things. This is the kind of stuff I like when doctors ask if I got something calming and piecing or something for their office or home. They intimate landscapes, they're elusive and subtle points between the sweeping vast landscape and the detail intimate close-ups that we're going to pursue here. So did I hear some talk? Was there questions or in the chat box or any questions we need to address? Okay. So we got more details. We find all things. Instead of shooting the whole waterfall, shoot the composition of the tree with the rock in the middle, the water coming down. So there's just so many things that we can do to capture a different scene and more intimate details instead of the grand vista of the whole waterfall. There's one last little stand of trees against all the fall foliage there. And just the little details that's hanging out there. Find little things, little aspens against in the early spring against green lush, and the power, the strength of the vertical aspens, and then the confusion of all the green plants growing around it just creates a real great dynamics for me. And this is what I just did in North Carolina. A couple of people here this mill I photographed out there. I was teaching a workshop out there a couple of months ago, and this is a mill I went to, and everybody else is walking around, foreground things, and I found this scene with the vine, the tree overlapping that, and I go, this is our scene. We got framing, we got look, we got reflection. This is just one of those scenes I really enjoy when you can put all those elements together. It's kind of got storytelling with the tree. The old grist mill there. So this is just the things that, looking for and always look beyond what, everybody else is photographing. Again, in North Carolina, I was out walking the lake one morning with our group, and everybody else has photographed the lake and the water, and there were some herons out there. And I turned around and I saw these roots protruding out of the side of the hill, and they're still gripping on. To me, I have this story with a tree growing up out of the corner, and I got to all the guys in the background, but these guys look like tentacles and fingers, like they're holding on for dear life. Excuse me. And immediately, as soon as I saw this shot, I actually, like I told you, I put it in black and white so I could remind myself of what I was doing, because I was out there for a week. And so I want to make sure that I remembered the shots I was wanting to work with. Another one, we were driving along with some friends up in Island Park here, going towards Yellowstone. And I just happened to see this, and I wasn't driving, but I asked the driver to pull over, and he goes, there's nothing here. What are you going to photograph? So I took a couple of shots of this, and they saw the back of the camera. And of course, and they all run to get their cameras because they wanted to get something similar. But it's just a matter of being able to see the little sumacs, the little berries, and the man-made fence that's going through there. So that created this little intimate scene for me. So, some of the tips for intimate scenes is keep your mind open. Have an open mind. It's nice to have a plan, but you need to be willing to change. That's so important that we have an ability to change and be able to move along if we see something else happening. The time of day, shooting in landscapes, everybody thinks you have to shoot, in the morning, the afternoon, but we use the middle of the day for shooting. I don't know how to get rid of that there. I'm sorry, guys. Well, sorry. Anyway, if you can't read, it's open shade. We try to shoot in overcast skies, open shade, and the middle of the day we use to scout locations and to do that kind of shooting for it. Some aloe vera, I think this is aloe vera plant, and I think it's interesting when I saw this, these really pointy plants, how spiny and pointy they are. And then you have all these sweet little flowers around, kind of almost protecting this big guy here. And, these sweet little little bluebell types, these little sunflower type stuff. And I thought it was really interesting capturing the design. And I knew this had to be black and white, but I didn't want to have all the colors of this because it's very colorful scene. I just wanted the lighting and the tone, the texture of that plant to jump out with the symphony of the other little flowers in the background helping out. You know, again, we're in the Northwest and just photographing and all the vines and the power of these big trees and realizing that these big trees protect the ferns going on here, and yet the ferns will be taken over when the trees die. The ferns will take over the trees. And it's just one of those stories. I just love the little lines and storylines that we're seeing here. And most of all, the tonalities that we see, the beautiful, just these cool green tonalities going through the scene. And again, this, I believe, is in North Carolina. Some of these I actually photographed if you've been out there in the Duke Gardens, and we went out and photographed in there, and I found these trees that were just protecting all these flowers, and I just loved how the little flowers were just kind of snuggled into the trees, and they were protected by these three big trees and the grasses and growing in there. So I guess I look for stories. I try to look at the emotional, the storytelling of the shot. And yes, there can be storytelling in landscapes and scenics. So, you know, in the middle of the day, you know, seek shade. We try to go in there. Yeah, it's bright and sunny outside. We seek shade. We may not like the low soft contrast for grand landscapes, but, you know, it's perfect to capture those intimate things and go in the shade. And, you know, I even carry a little soft reflector and that I can use for overhead, or, you know, pop some light underneath there to help out a little bit if that's necessary. So seek the shade to get those shots. And, you know, just looking against the wall and finding vines and trees that's growing out. And if you notice, I have my images tend to have a lot of negative space in my imagery. And that's just a style, I guess, I'm developed that I seem to be known for, is negative space in the landscapes. Again, there is negative space. Again, a burnout tree being caught on fire or being burned up, but this one flower or this one little plant had found root inside all those burnout ashes and all that stuff, and was able to establish itself and grow with her. And I thought this was just typical life. You can read into life about it's growing, coming in, how life can be so bad that you start over and you bloom. So I guess you can read a lot of things into your imagery. Again, just finding the parallax, the different vines and ferns and tones and textures in these intimate landscapes. So that's what we really try to strive for, is to find things that really make you wonder why, what for, how come that's dead and that one's not, and all the different colors in there. Just one second. Sorry, guys, getting a little, you guys are getting me all choked up here. I see a question in the chat. Is there something we need to address? Does somebody help me out? Is there something we need to talk about?
No, I think that was just a comment on muting.
Okay. So, you know, find the unique subjects when you're looking for those, and find something different that nobody else has done, or try to find something different than you haven't done before. I was photographed with my family up in Yellowstone, and I happened to see this, and I go, "Oh, geez, Dad, you're pulling over again." You know, but I just really thought this was kind of interesting because the geyser was going off in this background. This one solo tree was just left there. So I like to find unique subjects. You know, there again, you know, you saw some of my rock and my graphic pieces with my rocks and different things, and the growth and how the rocks have fell down, and just those big, strong pillars and the cracks leading down to the other pieces. So I'm always trying to find unique things. Another unique one that actually shows nature with man-made elements in the images is one we did in Colorado. And it's interesting, when my wife and I photograph, we see something. We it's a joke between us. We have to yell dibs because I see something, she sees something, and whoever sees it wants to use it. We have to yell dibs. I'm sure none of you ever have that problem with your spouse, but that's how we have to survive in our home. So finding different unique places. So we're looking for interesting tones, colors, shapes, and textures. This was just some textures I saw. Actually, we're walking back in the early morning from a shoot, and there were some in the parking lot. And then up in the Palouse, just the lines, the tones all the grain have been through, then the rolling hills going through there. It's just finding different tones and textures and capturing the little snippets of things. One of our most favorite places to photograph in the park is the hot pots, especially like the Midway Geyser Basin. We love the tones, the textures, the lines. And it seemed like every time we go up there, we can go to the same places and it looks different just because of the amount of water, what's happening, what's going on. So we're always finding different tones and textures. And we have come across some beautiful designs in these features. We're out photographing. Actually, I was photographing the eclipse several years ago. I was out to a marsh and I turned around and photographed the eclipse just before the eclipse started. And I looked around and I just saw these cattails, and I knew a process them would make them in a high key. And so I just turned something different from these cattails, photographed it into a pond of water and just turned it into a high key. So lens selections, everybody goes, what do you use? And I go, and I have everything from 100 macros to 24-105s to 7200s, extension tubes, whatever you're comfortable with, that's what you can use for intimate landscapes. Because when you look at that glass, you look on the back of that viewer, it's actually going to create that composition that you're looking for. And sometimes, I have to move my camera around looking, and then that scene pops in for me. It really helps me tunnel vision up my scene. Move in closer and getting close, and then increases the composition and getting closer, moving, get you closer in nature, like lichens. I love finding lichens in these colors and tones, and you can find beauty and design even in the smallest of places and the designs. And just finding bark and scenes in bark. And this was interesting because right behind here, this had been burned out inside this tree, and this was black, and there had been a fire burning down through the middle of the tree. And so I just love these little barks and tones. And wintertime, finding snow and snow covered and the ripples. And sometimes it's hard to go out and find these kind of shots, but or you want to go out because it's nasty, it's cold. But when you go out, you're so rewarded with these intimate landscapes and going out and finding things like this. So, you always have to work hard on composition. It's just as hard to do compositions on the small things as you do the big images. And, I think sometimes the small compositions are overlooked. But I think there's also an element of surprise when you find those little small compositions. You go, wow, look what Mother Nature did for us, these small little compositions for us. And they're just snippets, these intimate landscapes are just snippets of the larger landscape, and we just need to work on them all. I'm photographing, and I looked down, and it'd been really wet, and then it dried up. And I looked down, and I saw this mud. It had just curled up right in the road where I was shooting the landscape. And of course, then I had to shoot the mud, and I found this really cool. I thought designs, lines, got all these lines coming up and twist the camera around until you find what you're looking for. And, you don't have to go very far. I was on the way to go do something. I walked out my front yard, and I looked down, and overnight, you can still see the frost on the leaves here. And this one little leaf, I didn't move a thing. I went out, ran back in the house, got my camera, got a couple of shots. And there's actually a 40-inch canvas over my bed of this shots. I just think it's just one of those incredible images that just reminds you how fragile life is. And, another intimate scene that I was able to capture, and I entered this in a competition in one of the judges goes, well, I just don't understand why the water is looking so different, the waterfall down there. And, you know, yes, I could have done a masking, double exposure, and done a mask and put all the water the same direction, but this is showing the water is moving faster than it is coming down the hill here. And the rock, you know, is kind of anchoring everything from moving out of the picture here. So composition come down this rock here is actually anchoring in this negative space right there. So like I said, I could do a lot of things, but I like to capture the realism of the scene and be able to show what I'm looking for. You know, walking on a trail, I was in the Pacific Northeast, and I was walking on a trail. I saw this beautiful scene with all this hardwoods and maples, these leaves there, and I thought, oh, this is a trail, a beautiful shot with the line leading in there. But then I looked up here and go, no, that's my shot right there. I really enjoyed it. So I concentrated on the big scene, and I start working the scene and finding little snippets. And that's what I like to do, is find little things that maybe sometimes get overlooked. Again, out shooting, and noticed that this pine tree was growing up almost like a band of soldiers protecting this little bunch of Quakies. But what these little Quakies don't know, pretty soon that big conifer tree is going to come up and push them all out. But I just used a nice juxtaposition and thought it was kind of cool, the lines and all these struggling lines around here protecting that little tree. No, again, we talked about dramatic clouds and weather, or down in Monument Valley, and just happened to find all these beautiful clouds one evening as we're out photographing, and they're moving in for a storm, and just be able to capture this. And, you know, I could just see John Wayne running across this with a covered wagon and these cavalry troops. You know, I grew up in that era, and I could just visualize that scene with that whole thing right there. Again, down in Colorado, Garden of the Gods, beautiful sunrise, and just one of those mornings where the sky just lights up. And, you know, I don't know about you all, but I was like, thank you, Jesus, for a beautiful morning, and thank you for giving this beautiful light to work with and capture the scene. Is this an intimate scene, or is this a grand landscape? You know, it's kind of intimate with just this little mountain, but it's grand because it's got the mountains and the sky in the background. You have to decide. But it's still one of those beautiful images that I love to capture. Again, storm falling through in Colorado. It's been raining. We're growing some back trails, and all of a sudden the sky broke open and just lit this one peak. And you know, just stopping and finding. And when these kind of scenes happen, it's like you just go out and you capture, and you know, you just rack and stack, and then because the light lasted like 2 minutes and then it was gone. So, you know, shoot and then sort of later. I think so often I see photographers out, and they shoot, they chimp, they shoot, they chimp. You know, if you want to look at your back camera, make sure you're on the exposure and where you want to be, and then just shoot. You already know it's there. You quit looking at your camera. I mean, you waste more time looking at the back of your camera than you do shooting. So just get out there and make sure it's right, and then just shoot your butt off. You know, sometimes we're out shooting and surprises happen. You know, sunrise one morning at Tetons is photographing, and boom, a big old balloon runs into my scene. Of course, you know, you got to shoot it because it's there, but you know, just be alert and aware of what's happening and watch for the unexpected. And like photographed a landscape scene early morning, and cow, elk, or calf comes in the scene, and just be prepared, know your equipment well enough that you can change your settings, your ISO things quick enough to be able to capture this image, you know, from the landscape you're capturing. Photographing up on the Pacific Coast again, and I heard about this wreck of this boat up there, and so Sherry and I went up, we found it, and yes, it'd been storming and raining, and we had to wait for the waves to come in. And I love how one little line comes right up in the boat, makes this little circle around there of this boat, and the negative space showing things that's happening. So I could have come up on it, shot close up out, which I did that too, because I shot a lot of just to make sure I had it. But I enjoy the negative space, and I just draw that single solitary, you know, the warm tone against that cool sky there. And just trying to develop something that's going to work for the landscape, intimate or grand. Make up your, you can choose. So there's no precise definition of intimate landscape. It like I say, isn't the big vista or the macro, but somewhere between. But we need to rely on the patterns, textures, and we've talked about that before. So before we go into abstract, is there any questions or thoughts from anybody? Okay. When I do a half a day program, I usually drink, it's about a whole, I judge by how many Dr. Peppers I drink. Okay, so intimate abstract landscape. The abstract landscape is the art of finding a scene within a scene. And it's not necessarily macro, but it's close-ups and intricate designs. This is some hot pots we found. And I just love the tones and the colors there. It's very abstracty too. Again, this is one, it did well for competition, but this is up at Prismatic Springs, I believe. And the sun was setting, and I was able to capture the open blue sky and all these lines and tones and the sun setting in there. And it's just one of those things that you can find these patterns in nature if you just look. This is one that I just did. It just did very well in competition this year for me. I climbed the top of Prismatic and actually took my monopod and put my camera on top with remote and held up as high as I could, and then just kind of guessed where it's at and shot it because I knew where I wanted to get this image. I don't have a helicopter or a plane to fly over, so I did the next best thing, and it was up about 10 or 12 feet time I got my monopods and my arms stretched out to get the scene and get it from a different perspective. And that's the key point is I love the different perspectives and trying to find the designs. There again, designs, tones, textures of the trees, different colors. Get up early and go out in the fog and mist. And I'm driving along and I just saw this pattern of trees along this field. And I just thought it was a very monochromatic type look with all the fog and the trees, all like old soldiers standing in a row. So we go from there, and then I really enjoy capturing blur matching, blur and motion action. And so do we do a natural, let the blurring happen, or do it camera motion? This one I actually let the wind blow. I had the camera stationary, and they'll let the wind blow with the backline come through. So the wind would capture different things and let the little weeds and vines move. This one, it wasn't moving fast enough, so I put my neutral density filter on, my variable neutral density filter on, and allowed for the vines to keep moving, while just like wood water, by letting them kind of blow in the breeze. And so I utilized my neutral density filter with the weeds or these little foxtails as with I would with water. So just trying to learn some techniques. These are things that we play with when it's bad lighting or something out there. Do the pan and get your exposure and pan up and get some blur shots here. Like this here is just in trees. This was in more fall aspens. This one just the trunks. I just wanted the white trunks going up, and it just makes that really strong PowerPoint lines for me that I enjoy. Capturing the reflections. I mean, while everybody else was shooting the trees, I looked down and I saw all these beautiful reflections in the water. So it created this abstract for me. And we've actually sold like this, and it's just one of those shots that people enjoy because they don't know what it is, but they don't care if they like it. The blurry water. It's a skill to learn, but once you learn it, you'll use it day after day. The blurry action, and this is one of those shots where it's actually able to capture the water as the sun is setting and hitting the water, making it red. And so it's just a skill that I think needs to be put in your little wallet of skills there to learn. Again, I try to bring up my inner Ansel. I call my inner Ansel Adams, and finding the tonalities and the rocks and the water blurring and finding different things. And I'm kind of like a real low key kind of person on this kind of stuff. And I like the action, the water coming in. Could I flip the water and go in their direction? I could have. I knew which way it was going. I liked it better this way. So I really enjoyed these intimate. This is kind of an intimate abstract if you want to get the rocks, the water, and everything, but it's still one of those however you want to word it. So find unique designs and textures. You know, this is up in Yellowstone. I enjoy the textures of this with the terraces of the travertine and up here with the clouds, the snow-covered mountains. I love the tones and textures. Just the trails of the water going out and into the ocean from this in the sand. So this becomes quite an intimate abstract here. Again, we find abstracts and intimates in just the small ferns and the trees. And I love just finding these little scenes that, you know, what is it? Where's it at? It doesn't matter, just if you like it. Again, more reflections, fall reflections in the, you know, I like to have the fall colors, and you got the stems and more fall colors. I mean, the trunks of the trees. So it just create more dimension in your imagery. You know, when we as photographers, we go out, we all have a certain vision and a perspective in mind. We all have it in mind we've been pre-visualizing images. We've seen other photographers' images where we go, and we have these things in mind. And sometimes we just need to let go of them and try something new. Try what you see and then try something new. You know, our vision is extremely different from those that are just visiting the locations, because if somebody just driving up, taking a look at it, our vision is different. One day I was at the Molten Barns in Jackson, and so I was just enjoying the scene, and I'd photographed a bunch of stuff. So I was sitting down enjoying a Dr. Pepper and a Snickers, and I just was enjoying the little squirrels and things running around. And in the 30 minutes I saw there must have been 10 or 15 cars that went past. Not one person got out of the car. Most of them were out the window, and some of them had a field flash on a camera, and some of them had like their cell phones, and they didn't get out of the car to get a picture. And yet I just spent 2 hours working the scene, working the area. And so my vision was certainly different than theirs. You know, we've covered a lot of this stuff quickly, and yet my goal is to help you make your vision as a creative artist alert and observe the beauty around us. So it's important for me to help you understand that this is what I love. I love what I do, and I hope that, you know, this is help you out. And so as we go out and about, I want you to ask yourself these questions. Why am I taking these images? And I want you to pay attention to the smaller world around you. Be observant to the foreground, the background, the middle ground. And remember, less is more. Remember, a lot of my images were very simplistic images. And practice with negi space to give dimension to your imagery. And then shoot with intent. And when you do that, you're going to watch your compositions grow and be stronger. And don't be afraid to try new things and have an open mind. You know, like if you haven't ever photographed the pan shots or done a stitch, you know, try some new things and have an open mind and develop and put those in your little basket of skills you have. Now, get out there and enjoy and love the outdoors. So is there any questions? You can unmute and talk, or we put everybody to sleep.
I got a question.
Yeah.
There's a post-production process. It seems like he really likes saturated colors. It seems like he's doing a fair bit of manipulation of the images after he's taking the shots to give them the strength and the impact and the artistry that they have. I'm curious how much of that he goes into.
So the question from the audience, Dennis, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. I couldn't hear him very well. I apologize.
Okay, yeah, so the question is, he was saying you have a lot of saturated colors. He was wondering how much post-processing you do on the color.
Well, I talked about, you know, no, not overdoing it. And I do use Nick a lot, but I try not to over push it. Actually, those colors are out there, and a lot of times they're in those imageries. And, you know, a lot of times when I'm working on an image, I'm 10, 15 minutes and I'm done with it because I use Nick and I use my levels and exposures, and don't feel like I over process them, but that color is actually out there. Sometimes our eyes deceive us, but I go out there and I really work hard on trying to find the scenes that produce that kind of look. I hope that answers the question. So, you can do it in Lightroom, you can do Photoshop, whatever is your poison there. But the matter is, it's just so it isn't so blatantly, when I say glowing or radiating. Anything else?
So I'm going to ask a question. I used one of your images in our newsletter. It was the wind turbines with a storm. And I was just curious where it was and how you got it. It looks like you were actually in the sky. So I was just curious what that shot was.
That was an interesting shot because Sherry and I do a lot of drive-abouts, and I was out at work and I says, there's a storm brewing up. This is actually up on the I call it the bench above east of Idaho Falls. And I saw a storm brewing, and I come in and I go, Sherry, we've got to run up there. And it's about a 30-minute drive up there. And we were up on the top of the mountain, and we're looking over all this windmill shots. And I did yell dibs because I saw it. That shot, except for, I convert it to black and white. That is how dramatic and dark it was up there that night, that day. It was actually very frightening because when the storm hit, the power of the storm, the lightning, we couldn't even drive off the hill because it was so powerful. But it was up on the east bench of Idaho Falls, looking down on all the windmills up there. Yeah, when Sherry calls me and asks me if how's the insurance paid up, I'm out shooting. May it's time to come indoors.
I was in the car.
She was in the car.
And if anybody online
I
has a
really
question-
appreciate.
Oh, go ahead.
I really appreciate your comments because they gave me a lot of great ideas. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Well, thank you. I know for some of you it's late on the East Coast.
Oh man, it's just not 10 o'clock yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I had questions there. Okay, if you'll make a screen capture, here's my information. If anybody wants to get it, you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm redoing the website right now. Mine got hacked, and I'm having to redo the whole thing. So just hang tight. If you find me on Facebook, I'll be announcing it here shortly. If actually Sherry and I are leaving tomorrow for Croatia, and then after Croatia, we're going to go to Italy. So we'll be gone for about 2 weeks. So I know we're teaching. It's going to be on a cruise ship, a 30 passenger boat going to 8 different ports in Croatia. So we'll be doing that again next year. So I'll let people know we got some. These are a couple of small ones. I told some people earlier that we're going to be speaking in Virginia coming up in March. We got some other ones coming up. So if you're on Facebook, follow me. We post a lot of this stuff on Facebook, what we're doing.